What's good, everyone? This is my first long form YouTube video. I typically just upload shorts, but I want to start doing these longer form videos, especially for my market recaps, so I can really, have the time to dive into price action and, why we moved the way that we did today. If I did take any trades, I'll break that down as well. So I'm going to dive right in to today. So today is June 25th. Something to note, we had Powell speaking today at 10 a.m. So, whenever you have someone like Powell speaking 30 minutes into market open, most likely price action will probably be slow, probably be choppy. So on days like this, got to be super cautious, super patient. And going into a day like this, I'm expecting that we probably won't get, something to trade with. So I don't really even expect that I will take a trade. But if something, happens and we get some good price action, I'll take it. But, I'm going into a day like this just expecting to just be super patient. And also, we are coming up on all-time highs. We had a big sell-off in the April timeframe, and we're finally coming up, out of those areas. If we jump onto the daily time frame here, see the price had this massive sell-off from February to April. Look at this, massive sell-off, and we are coming back and approaching all-time highs. So when we're in an area like this, we have to look, way to the left on our chart for our draws on liquidity. And today is one of those days. So price, we can see, comes up, and we are respecting a 1 hour bearish fair value gap from back in February. So I'll draw that on the chart here, and I will drag that all the way over to current price. So 1 hour bearish gap. We see that price did end up coming up and tapping into that fair value gap. Also, our next draw on liquidity from where current price is was a 4 hour high. This is draw on liquidity to the upside. So our next draw on liquidity to the upside was this 4 hour high. And if we go back to the 1 minute time frame, we'll do a little measurement here. So going back to our high from today, after 9:30 open, we came up a little bit. We'll do a measurement from this high here up to that draw on liquidity on the 4 hour. That's 120 points. So whenever your closest draw on liquidity to the upside is 120 points away, once again, odds that we'll probably find something to take are going to be pretty slim. And if we go back to the 1 hour, we can see the price is pretty overextended. So we've been moving up pretty significantly these last few days, as we can see right here. I was looking for some sort of retrace and then possible long, because we are super bullish on the higher time frames. So going back to the 1 minute time frame after market opens, we do get a retrace, and now this isn't anything that's super significant. We don't go down too much, but for my model, this trade did look pretty good. So we make a little move to the upside. We have this retrace. We sweep out these lows from market open. We are also reacting out of this bullish fair value gap right here. So we have, turn off this magnet real quick. We have a bullish gap that, as we can see, price comes down and fills perfectly. So we have that. Got our liquidity sweep. We're super bullish on the higher time frames. And then if we jump to the 3 minute, we can see that we have an inverse fair value gap. So price, comes down, we sweep out 930 lows, great reaction out of this, this bullish gap here, and we fly through this 3-minute bearish fair value gap, and we close above. So we inverse this gap. This right here would have been a phenomenal trade for my model. So I trade inverse fair value gaps, would have been a phenomenal trade. But this is where, the higher time frames come in. We are going to jump to the 5-minute. So if we go to the 5-minute time frame, we see that we also had a 5-minute bearish gap that never got inversed. So now that 3-minute trade is not valid because we have a higher time frame bearish gap that has not been inversed. So what I was looking for in this situation was a 5-minute closure above this bearish gap. So I wanted a 5-minute inverse. That's what I was looking for, and I was prepared to take a long position if we got that candle closure above. We didn't. We respected the 5-minute gap, made a move lower. So I did not take that trade. Stayed out of that trade, and then there was also a couple more decent setups that I want to break down today that I didn't take any of them, but I will explain exactly why. So now we had another 3-minute bullish gap here. So before I even get into this, the reason I didn't take this was because this bullish gap was very small. So this was only 3 points. And typically when a fair value gap is that small, it gets inversed. Not super high probability just because the gap was so small. If it was a larger fair value gap like this one was here, that's a lot more significant. This, 3-point gap, not very significant. So as we can see, price failed to move higher. We're respecting that 5-minute bearish gap, and we're also reacting out of that 1-hour bearish gap. So that I went over earlier. So respecting the 1-hour bearish gap, we failed to move higher. We're respecting the 5-minute bearish gap. We get a confirmation candle through this 3-minute. Could have taken a short position right here, and stop loss would have been right above the gap. Problem with this trade is I would probably be targeting this 15-minute low right here, which was also inside of a 15-minute gap. Issue with this, risk to reward just was not there. So that coupled with this 3-minute gap being only 3 points, for me, I wanted to stay out of that. We also, Powell had Powell speaking, typically low volume. So stayed out of that trade solely based on the fact that the inverse, the fair value gap was tiny, and the risk to reward just really was not there. So obviously it would have hit for a 1-to-1, but not high probability enough for me to take the trade. Also, one more trade I want to look at here was this. We got another inverse right here. We had this bullish fair value gap on the 1-minute right here, and price inverse the gap right here. We did come up and take out these highs, but ideally I would want to see us take out a more significant high like this one, because if we did come up and take this high, I would have taken the trade. So I would have taken this trade if price came up, swept out this high, because this high right here was also inside of a bearish gap. So whenever you have a liquidity sweep, so whenever you have a sweep that occurs inside of a fair value gap, it's much more high probability. So, if we would have came up and taken out this high, which is also in the bearish gap, and then got this sort of reaction back to the downside, this would have been great. Just taking out this internal high here, just not enough for me. We did have another confluence though. So we had trendline liquidity here. As we can see, this price action right here, we are just stacking lows on this trend line right here. So what this means is there is a lot of stop losses on these lows. whenever there's a lot of stop losses, that's obviously a sign for price to move to that area. So that was another confluence to this trade. If I was to take this, I wanted to see this high taken out. So we didn't get that, and obviously that's why I did not take any trades. I usually like to log off around 11 a.m. I just find that any trades I take after 11 a.m. typically do not end well. So that's just from, my screen time in my trading. So I typically, unless there's something crazy, I like to log off around 11 a.m. I don't trade PM session. Will I in the future? Maybe. I currently don't. So no trades for me today, but that's a little breakdown of why I didn't take any trades and the setups that I did see that I was looking at that just weren't high probability enough for me to take. So that's a wrap on this one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this, learned something from it. If there's other types of videos that you guys want me to make, be sure to throw them down in the comments. Super excited to start making these longer form videos. If you guys watch this, stay to the end. Let me know in the comments. Subscribe, and the content is only going to get better and better. I'm super excited. So good luck to all you guys the rest of the trading week. I'll be back on here tomorrow with another market recap. So peace.